And I hate it. I mean, I think all that stuff is true. It is historic, and I'm doing my best to restrain the goosebumps on that one. But it does a bunch of stuff that we really didn't want to do. I mean, using this debt limit as this hostage device in order to get policy changes that would never have been able to be approved under other kinds of circumstances is a terrible way to run government and economics. And the results of it are that we're cutting in tough times, and it's going to hurt jobs, which is our biggest problem.
What percent of the debt, Byron York, do you think will be cut as a result of this deal? The last estimate I saw was 0.5%. I think that might be a little high.
As far as we know, in the new bill, which will be probably passed tomorrow, cuts about $25 billion in the first year, next year. And the deficit this year is $1.6 trillion, so you do the math there. It is a victory for Republicans, but
Ellis is scratching out those numbers right now.
I should say that Republican leaders in the House especially are acutely aware that the public's #1 concern is jobs. When you listen to John Boehner talk about this, he tries to connect it to jobs, and they know they need to move on.
I got to raise my hand
working on jobs.
I understand that they may be aware of it. So why don't we move to the real discussion, which is how do we get real leadership driving this great free enterprise capitalist economy again? I
would love to have that conversation.
Let's have it.
And that's the one we didn't have over the last couple of months while we were wasting time on this stuff. I mean, to me, one thing that's
if Obama and Boehner, and Reid would call me, we could do this.
We were on the same page with this. I agree with you completely. But one thing that won't achieve that is taking money away from the things that are going to create those jobs.
No. I see, there you go. I mean, I think.
But that's what we've just done today. It's worth mentioning, isn't it?
There you go again.
Isn't it worth mentioning? We just did that today.
I think it's worth mentioning that, but it is also a moment in time that was inconceivable.
Absolutely.
Less than a year ago. Hats off to the Tea Party. Hats off. I think we can be ecumenical here tonight. Hats off to the president, to Harry Reid, and to John Boehner. I can't believe I just said the vice president reportedly calling Tea Party members terrorists. My goodness. What do you think?
Well, he's tried to walk that back a little bit, saying he doesn't really feel that way. Another member of the Democratic Party today called
He was just saying it. He didn't feel it.
He didn't really mean it. Actually, this is a common line among the Democratic caucus to say that Republicans acted like terrorists in this. Another Democrat, Luis Gutierrez, called them arsonists. This is quite a common
Luis, how can you
phrase
do
among
that?
Democrats. That's what he said.
Well, my friend Congressman Gutierrez is usually a little more understated than that. I'm just kidding, but he's got great passion, and I love that.
I think they're both wrong. I would say hostage taker is a little closer. I mean, there is a little closer. There is, you've got to acknowledge a certain extortionate aspect to the political strategy that got us here. Right?
Is there at work here an inexorable force? You said hostage takers. Are we not hostage right now to the failed policies of two parties over the course of the past 30 years? Did not the Democrats hold us hostage? Did not the Republicans hold us hostage as both parties grew this government beyond any measure of common sense or prudence?
I think that's probably right. I mean, they do with different priorities, but there's an element of truth in that.
Well,
yes.
sort of, the priorities don't matter much if the result is an absolute economic disaster. Take note. We've got 25 million people living in real pain, 5 million foreclosures.
Okay. But let's call it that, and let's address the things that are severe problems. And the biggest of them all right now is getting people back to work. And this won't do that, and that's tragic.
It is the beginning, though, of bringing some sense to this economy. We've got a government that's literally out of control here, folks. I mean, if anybody hasn't noticed, it's a government out of control. By the way, I will credit President Obama for having the guts to defy the left of his party, and he's being eviscerated from the left.
And the left is saying that he has no negotiating skills. They're talking about primarying him. The progressive is completely lost. They say they've lost him. He's totally lost them.
Ellis, you get the last word here.
And the left will come back home because in the end, who the heck else do they have?